The pride of the Kriegsmarine against the might of the Royal Navy. It's an epic on the high seas in this popular film from 1960. Welcome to WFP Reviews. This time we explore Sink the Bismarck with a revamped review with some new video and content. We'll critique the film, look at what it gets right and wrong, and reveal surprising facts about those involved. Sink the Bismarck is an exciting depiction of the Royal Navy operation to stop the famous German battleship. The events are largely factual, though the film does use fictional characters for dramatic effect. Released by 20th Century Fox, the movie was directed by versatile Lewis Gilbert. The script by Edmund North was based on a book by leading naval writer C.S. Forester, the author of the Hornblower novels. Bismarck itself was named for Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, the leader who unified modern Germany, and it was one of Europe's largest battleships, along with its sister ship, the Tirpitz, which was actually even larger. Our film opens with real newsreel footage from 1939, showing the launch of the Bismarck in Hamburg. It's just months before the start of World War II, and Hitler and Air Marshal Goering are happily in attendance. Now, the opening newsreel is narrated in German in the movie, but there's an eerie coincidence. In the actual 1939 English version of the same newsreel, the narrator compares the new Bismarck to the Royal Navy's HMS Hood. A horrible foreshadowing, as we shall see.
The Bismarck will do 30 knots, so becoming one of the fastest capital ships afloat. Only HMS Hood among British battleships is equally fast.
After the credits, events jump ahead to spring 1941. Here, the producer made the very smart decision to use famous American newsman Edward R. Murrow to set the scene. Murrow gained fame covering the war in Europe and became a very influential journalist by the 1950s. In the movie, he plays himself doing wartime radio reports from London. Using Murrow in the film and in promotional trailers gave American audiences a greater stake in this very British story and helped the movie succeed in the U.S.
Bismarck had to be sunk if Britain was to survive. Winston Churchill gave the order.
I don't care how you do it. You must sink the Bismarck.
This is how it was done.
Murrow also enhances the film's semi-documentary style. His opening report paints a bleak picture. Britain is alone. Nazi Germany dominates most of Europe, and the key island of Crete is about to fall into German control. Worst of all, German U-boats are sinking tons of supplies meant to feed Britain, and now the Bismarck looms as another threat as it heads for the Atlantic. Next, the story briskly moves to the Royal Navy's operational division, located deep underground in London. This nerve center becomes the movie's main location as senior officers play a deadly game trying to find the Bismarck and stop it. Running this operation is the film's star, Kenneth More, as Captain Jonathan Shepherd, a fictionalized character. To make things less confusing and increase the dramatic stakes, the movie reduces the large British headquarters to a few key characters who seemingly never go off duty. While not historically accurate, this does make things easier to follow and adds drama with glimpses of Shepherd's personal life. Second build is Berlin-born Dana Winter as RN Officer Ann Davis, Shepherd's personal assistant. She's another fictional character, but serves to offer compassion and a borderline romantic interest that gives the film broader appeal. Lawrence Naismith played Shepherd's commanding officer, the real-life Sir Dudley Pound, who was first Sea Lord and Admiral of the Fleet. He's under pressure from Winston Churchill to stop the Bismarck regardless of cost. As Winston raises the stakes, it becomes very clear this isn't just a naval operation. It's also a key propaganda battle, as Churchill desperately seeks a victory over Bismarck to raise morale at home. Facing off against Shepherd are Karl Stepanek as Admiral Gunther Lütjens and Bismarck Captain Ernst Lindemann, played by Karl Mohner. This pair is usually seen in a large captain's cabin, plotting their moves with a large painting of Otto von Bismarck in the background. For the Germans, things begin off the coast of Norway. as the Bismarck steams with the cruiser Prinz Eugen. They're using fog as cover and can pick from one of 4 different routes into the open Atlantic. At this point, there are a lot of moving pieces in the movie, as Shepard assigns many ships and planes to search for the enemy. But events are pretty easy to follow, thanks to the polished script. British forces finally do confirm the Bismarck's location, and that sets the stage for the main event of the film's first half. That's the famous Battle of the Denmark Strait, between the German ships and the cruiser Hood and battleship Prince of Wales. While it's not in our film, here's some striking real footage of Bismarck fighting the Hood, filmed from Prinz Eugen. This battle ended with Hood's destruction and a loss of over 1,400 men, while the Prince of Wales escaped. The Hood's fate makes sinking the Bismarck an even higher priority, and the rest of the film shows Captain Shepard expertly leading the Royal Navy's hunt for the German giant. The film's second half offers lots of naval action involving planes and all classes of ships, including carriers. These sequences and the special effects are very effective, especially for a movie made in 1960. With a solid budget, the filmmakers didn't skimp and secured top miniatures expert Howard Lydecker, whose use of models and water explosions worked well. Of note were complex layer sequences in which real refurbished swordfish planes are shown attacking and taking fire from a large Bismarck model. Another big factor in the film's realism was that producer John Brabourne was the son-in-law of Lord Mountbatten. This helped secure real Navy ships for filming. These included Britain's last battleship HMS Vanguard and the modern carrier Victorious, which stood in for the 1941 Ark Royal. There are inaccuracies in the film for dramatic impact, such as Bismarck downing a biplane, which didn't happen. But apart from Captain Shepard replacing real-life Sir Ralph Edwards, the film's greatest liberty was a depiction of German Admiral Lütjens. As scripted, Karl Stepanek plays Lütjens as a fierce-eyed Nazi who's obsessed with pleasing Hitler.
Master, we are unsinkable, and we are German!
In reality, Lütjens was an officer dedicated to the German Navy, but not the Nazi Party. His great-grandmother was part Jewish, and he refused to give the Heil Hitler salute when the Führer visited the Bismarck. Before his doomed voyage, Lütjens confided to a friend that, quote, survival was improbable, and then followed orders and sailed into history. Finally, it's notable that years later, a NATO destroyer class was named in his honor. At this point, let's credit Louis Gilbert for his directing in a film that succeeds both as a naval spectacle and as a personal drama for the lead characters. Gilbert clearly had a talent for both and had a great career as he'd later direct acclaimed character studies such as Alfie and Educating Rita, and also succeeded with 3 big Bond flicks. Finally, while much of Sink the Bismarck has a tone of an actioner, with Clifton Parker's exciting musical score, the film doesn't back away from war's grimmer realities. Early on, the First Sea Lord is quite willing to virtually guarantee the death of a Norwegian agent by contacting him directly about Bismarck. Later, there's a very chilling and effective moment when a British officer below decks finds blood dripping from the ceiling after his ship's bridge takes a direct hit. And, near the end, the Bismarck's final moments show many scenes of sailors drowning, burning, or dying in explosions. The violence may be tame by today's standards, but it was fairly grim for 1960. Over time, inevitable debate has arisen about the Bismarck's last hours and exactly how it went down. Eyewitness reports from some British sailors say they saw flags and signals showing some on Bismarck wanted to surrender. But in the fury of the fighting, the ship was repeatedly torpedoed and sank. Years later, a new debate arose when Robert Ballard, the man who found Titanic, discovered the Bismarck's wreck and concluded that the crippled ship had been scuttled, blown up from the inside. Regardless of how it sank, of Bismarck's 2,000-man crew, only about 110 survivors were rescued by British ships before concerns about prowling U-boats drove them away. Of course, the operation has inspired many books and documentaries. As years pass, new facts have been declassified, such as codebreakers learning the damage Bismarck was making for Brest. Now, there's too much of this material to cover in my review. However, one key thing to appreciate is how the film shows the era of big battleships was ending. The Bismarck was a large and very expensive ship with great firepower, but it was crippled by a handful of 1934 biplanes. Even earlier, in 1940, Swordfish biplanes torpedoed and devastated the Italian fleet at Taranto. Later, taking note of both events were senior Japanese planners preparing for Pearl Harbor. The era of dominant naval air power was launched. Now, let's take a quick look at some cast trivia. Lawrence Naismith, Kenneth Moore, and Michael Goodliffe all served in the Navy, while 2 years earlier, the trio was part of the Titanic sinking in A Night to Remember. As mentioned, Dana Winter was actually born in Berlin as Dagmar Winter, but grew up in England and then Rhodesia. Our film also features a feature glimpse of future star David Hemmings, known for films such as Blow Up and Gladiator, and here he's seen as a young crewman on the Ark Royal. As I say, blink and you'll miss him. But the most intriguing cast choice was Esmond Knight as the captain of the Prince of Wales, the ship that escapes after the hood blows up. It turns out Knight was actually wounded and lost an eye as a serving officer on the Prince of Wales when it faced the Bismarck. Hi. I also wanted to mention that the large cast includes channel favorite Michael Hordern. He plays the fleet commander who takes on the Bismarck at the end. Now, Sink the Bismarck was one of the most popular British war movies ever to be released in the States at that time. I think part of the credit has to go to the promotion through a hit song by Johnny Horton called Sink the Bismarck. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you back again real soon at Waltz Flicks Picks.